What? What is that? That's great. It finally came. Very strange way to have it delivered though. So I have to admit, this is about the strangest thing I've ever had delivered. The folks at the post office had no idea what this was. This is my new toboggan kit. I ordered this from Lure of the North. This is a 10-foot toboggan kit. So the kit comes with some wooden cross pieces, and then it's got a bunch of pieces. Here's some leather. I believe that's for the strap. Some rope. All kinds of webbing and clips. Some additional rope with some brass rings, more webbing, and some wood screws. So I'm gonna go in, take a little break, have some coffee, peruse these instructions, and come on back out and assemble this toboggan. Alright, so we've moved indoors to make things a little bit easier. I've read through the instructions and gone through the items not provided and collected those. Inside it should work a little bit easier. I've got the toboggan clamped down to a 2x4 so I can lift it and move it around if I need to. So holding it down are just a couple small clamps like this. I've got the other tools that I require. The one thing that needs a little bit of extra time are these wooden cross pieces. They require a second coat of varnish. They've had one coat of varnish. You should put another coat of spar varnish on. Or they recommend linseed oil. They've already had varnish, so I don't know. For me, linseed oil shouldn't be applied over varnish because it soaks into the wood. So varnish makes the most sense to me. That's going to require a bit of time. I've assembled the tools. All tools that are pretty common. There's a few sort of rare sizes of drill bits that you need a pretty good drill kit to have. And you also need a countersink bit. 1/2-inch countersink bit. That's something that might be a little bit rare. Other than that, flat screwdriver, hammer, knife, tape measure, pen, electrical tape, all stuff you should have at home. Drill driver. The other sort of thing that might be a challenge for some people is a hairdryer or a heat gun. Fortunately, my daughters lent me theirs. All right, so I've clamped the toboggan down, and this is basically how it's going to go. These cross pieces are going to screw onto the toboggan. They're numbered, they go in a certain place, and there's pre-drilled holes in the toboggan to receive these. Basically what we're going to do is countersink the plastic from the bottom and then screws in to the wood. We have to pre-drill those and screw them in, but that's the basic process. And then we run the ropes through the toboggan and the other hardware, and it'll start to look more like a toboggan. So it's going pretty good. I've attached the first two cross pieces. Like I said, there's some pre-drilled holes, but there's only 3. So we start with the first 3 pre-drilled holes. There's going to be 5 holes in each one ultimately, but we're going to start with 3 to get them placed. So this is the next one. This is number 3, or number 4 actually, and this is going to go on right here. So what I'm finding useful to make this happen is to grab a straight edge and lining up the first 2 holes and making a little mark. Yes, it's black on black, but I can still see that. Okay. Now I'm going to clamp this in place, lining up those marks. And I've got a little headlamp here just to help me see the mark, yeah. One on that side and one on this side. I'm just looking at those marks, and I'm just going to tap this gently so that I am square on that mark. That looks really good. And with my thumb, I'm just going to measure the edge. I'm going to send it that direction, just a tap. There, that's perfectly in place. I'm now going to flip this over. Haha. I'll just roll it up for you. That'll be easier. Okay. Got my bit. I'm going to hold one of the screws against the drill bit and use a piece of electric tape to mark the depth of the screw. That will ensure that I don't drill through the wood. And I'm going to drill the pilot holes. Then I'm going to switch my bit out. It's a little bit awkward with that there. I'm going to put in my countersink bit. And then I'm going to countersink those holes. And then I'm going to put my screw in. I'm going to use a straight edge. I'm just going to mark center. Just going to tap it that way. This is working good. It's a little more stable if I put it on its side. Alright, so I've got a bit of a challenge. I've got the crossbars in place here. They're held in place with 3 screws drilled from the other side and countersunk into the plastic of the toboggan. I'm now supposed to drill a hole right through here that'll support a T-nut. And that makes perfect sense. A bolt, the instructions say a bolt is supposed to go through. This says 12 T-bolts and nuts. But what I've got here is a panhead screw, not a bolt. So I'm not sure exactly how this is supposed to work. So I think they sent me the wrong screws. I'm going to email them and double check. So I guess we're going to halt production just for a little bit while we wait for those screws to arrive. Dave and Carlin were great. I emailed them. They put the screws in the mail the next day, and they should be here shortly. So you might be asking yourself, Kev, what's with that new toboggan? So while we wait here, I thought I'd explain. I've decided to get into winter camping again. I used to do a fair amount of winter camping when I was younger. And when kids came along, I started coaching hockey. I've coached hockey for 9 years straight now. And that just keeps you very busy throughout the winter. You're tied up almost every weekend. And now that the kids have hit a certain age, I've got more time for that. So I thought I'd get back into it. I've got a plan to buy more gear, get into hot tenting. I'm not going to do it this year because this year's a little bit crazy for all that. But my plan is for next year. And winter camping gear is expensive. You need lots of it to to be comfortable, and I'm going to start this year acquiring a few pieces of gear. The Toboggan is part of that. Oh, what's that? Right on, just on cue, the screws have arrived. Alrighty, there are my screws. Let's get back to this project. Let's see what we got in here. So that's nice. Little note here, just needs bolts. Thanks, Kevin, and sorry about that, from Dave and Kylan. And there are the bolts that I need. He's got them all taped up. There we go. Awesome. There we go. That looks good. That's a lot of bolts. He sent me a few extras, I think. So what they suggest you do is that you mount these basically by eye, and then use an awl to mark the center, then drill the hole. I like to measure things, so I've got my rulers here, and I'm going to use this as my center, and then I'll drill my hole. I'm supposed to drill with an 11/64 drill bit. Make sure that's the right one. I'll pull this to the edge of my table and drill right through the wood. Now I'm going to enlarge that hole just a little bit for the T-nut. Whoa, that's pretty fast action. This will go in the hole. I can hammer that in place. Okay, so I got to countersink that before I put the screw in. Countersunk, screwdriver. There, the bolt is right there in the T-nut. Well countersunk. I just got to do the rest of them like that. Alright, all my screws and all my bolts are in, holding the wood down to the plastic. I've got some holes to drill here. This is the front cross piece. This is going to be the front of the Toboggan. This piece does not have any through bolts. I'm going to do some through holes and put a cord through that's going to be the pull cord. This is going to be the front of the Toboggan, and so all the forces are going to push this wood towards the plastic, so it doesn't need bolts. But I do need to make those through holes. The through holes are going to go in close to the edge, but not through that screw that's already there. So I need to make some through holes. They're going to go right through this, right through the plastic. Not a whole lot of direction, except keep them towards the outside, but not through the screw that you've already mounted in there. Probably the easiest thing to do is to flip this over first. Then I can see where I've already got my screws, and I can drill right through adjacent to that screw. Starting to feel like a toboggan. This is going to go on here. 5 screws hold the headboard in place, so I'm just going to mark out an even spacing with the ruler. Yes. the running line is the longer of the 5mm cord. Two ends, and run them until I find the center. There's the center. So I need to tie a figure 8 with not a very big loop on the end. So I've got the center of the rope with a figure 8 knot tied right there on a bite, so there's a little bit of a loop. This is going to protrude at the back of the toboggan. The rest of this cord gets pulled through that last cleat.
Notice that that last cross piece has extra through bolts for added strength on the back end.
Okay, so each piece goes out to the side and back through. And these running lines go through that cleat like that. And then I basically put them through again and back over, crossing them. So I'll shove them through the same direction that they came the first time. They're a little snug. And I cross them underneath. Pull this tight. Okay, now this goes over this cross piece and under and over. I'm going to cross it like a clove hitch. And basically tie a clove hitch right here.
So essentially you're going to end up with a clove hitch tied around each cross piece, and you're going to try and keep those running lines tied tight.
So I've got all the running lines down and in place. They tie to each of these cross pieces with a clove hitch, and then the lines run up to the end here. I've got a heater heating up this plastic. Oh, that's really hot there. That's good. And when it's soft enough, I'm going to bend it into shape, and we'll have ourselves a toboggan. I'm just going to finish it with some knots on the top here to hold that in place. Also got a hairdryer here to work on this side. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to try and balance that out. Maybe I'll snug this one down a little bit tighter. Just a little bit. There, that looks nice and even. That's good. I like the look of that. We've got a toboggan.
You can finish this off by tying the ends together with a double fisherman's knot, which can serve as a bit of a handle.
Alright, so that's looking like a toboggan. I've got the haul lines through here with a little stopper knot. And I'm going to attach the tump strap to those haul lines. Nice piece of leather to help you pull the toboggan. And these get attached with a simple little bowline. This is a really nice strap. Nice leather strap with a couple of rivets and a brass D-ring. There we go. There's the haul line.
This is the brake line, which installs on the back loop
Figure 8.
with a figure 8 knot.
I have enough slack, yeah. So that's good. That's good and strong. This is the brake line. This is if you want to pull your sled backwards, or if a second person is going to try and slow your sled. And so they don't want much of a knot on the end at all, not a loop that'll catch on things. They recommend just a water knot, which is really just an overhand knot like that, just something to get your hand onto. And that's my brake line. So we've got all these little bits of accessory cord and a bunch of brass rings. We're going to put the cord through the rings and tie an overhand knot, securing those together. And this is going to be the main way that the webbing attaches to the line here. We're going to use the cord and tie a prusik knot around the running line, and this is going to create a lashing point. You can move it back and forth, but if you pull on the rope it won't move. So the webbing they supply has a nice loop in one end of it, so we're going to put that end around the running line and pull the rest of the webbing through it, and this is what's going to attach through these links. And then we'll crisscross all the way down the toboggan until we have our load secure. I'll keep attaching these links.
To tie the prusik knot, just loop the ring and the knot through itself and around the running line twice. That's the prusik knot, and then you want to adjust that just a little bit so that the ring isn't pulling on the knot. You want the ring to pull on the accessory cord. After all the rings are attached, we can install the webbing by putting it through the rings and crisscrossing it down the toboggan. The 10-foot toboggan has 2 sections of webbing, and at the end of each section you're going to install a buckle for that webbing by looping itself around the running line. And you finish tying down your load by passing the webbing through the webbing buckle. And that's the toboggan. Let's go test this out with some precious cargo.
I need to put a blanket on it. No, get up. So if you take one step forward. See, it'll be nicer. That's crazy. Off you go.